Welcome back. Now we know where the well is. But you're the first to step foot in the deep zone in over 15 years.
And I need more time to understand Alan's suppression method. So why don't you stretch your legs and chart the deep zone while you're at it? We'll need to map a way to the well as it is.
You make it sound all so simple now. Whatever. We've come this far. Why not continue blindly forward into doom?
To know if what I saw was true, if it came from the well, or if it was all in my head. The things we spoke of, things I couldn't have made up. Never mind. I know how it sounds.
Like you've seen a ghost.
No wonder she was always so opposed to the boys ghost hunting. I guess she was afraid of what she might find.
Good news. I can replicate Alan's suppression method.
Once the reaction gets going, however, that's harder. But I have an idea. Francis, I need your ear.
Go on.
We know that as soon as the car gets to the well, the trigger will be instant. Once this remnant expends its energy, gamma radiation will erupt from the well, and the driver will be at ground zero taking the worst of it.
But can we activate the gateway as soon as they make contact?
It's tricky. Too early, and we may interrupt whatever reaction process the remnant carries out. Too late, and it's bad news
for the driver. There's too many unknowns. Only the driver will know the right time to use it.
How can you be sure they'll live long enough to make that call?
The ARC device has been transmitting data every single second since it was installed. Every drop of fuel, every spark plug that car lit, I have on record.
You've been running an experiment this entire time, with the driver as the guinea pig.
The mere act of being alive is the biggest experiment of all, dear.
Is that another one of Alan's sayings?
That one's all mine. Driver, we've seen that car protect you this entire time.
It's triggered a gateway in your time of need. It's ferried you back to the garage through every circumstance and obstacle and bump in the road. So we can trust that it'll protect you long enough to get you away from whatever and wherever you end up.
Still sounds like a heavy dose of blind faith to me.
Could be. Oh, there's one last part to this, and it's waiting for you back at the auto shop. Take your time. Enjoy the view.
I'm sorry, you're going to open a gateway on my head? I mean, it makes sense. The gateways do seem to keep the radiation away. One right on top of me while I'm in there, and you effectively create a donut of safety for me to stand in. was half expecting to go through here pursued by some nameless shadowy horror, or for great eyes to open in the sky and call my name. There isn't even rare and wondrous treasures to find out here. It's like standing in a nuke crater, it's just ash and death. Ugh, maybe this is hell. Didn't Bosch paint something like this?
Fresh new upgrade waiting for you, driver. Straight out of the oven.
What do you think, Francis?
It could work.
It will work. We don't know anything about the well, but the driver doesn't have to go in completely empty-handed.
You're removing the arc device's limiter and overloading its charge capacity.
Right. So no matter how much energy the car's getting blasted with, the arc will be able to overpower it to open a gateway. It's the only way to extract the driver from whatever's going to happen at the trigger point.
And then we use Allen's suppression technique to keep the whole thing from completely exploding? This sounds like a lot.
Arc device mod's looking good. Now you can head out and overcharge it. We'll give you instructions when you're en route.
Oh yeah, fuck it. Just strap a macro wave to my passenger seat and drop me into the abyss, why don't you?
Here's what we know. Over 50 years ago, in November of 1946, Dr. Ophelia Turner was 27. She had recently returned home to the Olympic Peninsula to lick her wounds after a failed stint in academia. In a fit of obsession or redemption, or, quite frankly, both, she cobbled together a laboratory in her basement and produced the first limb wave on nothing but a killer hunch and plain ingenuity. Or so the story goes.
It's never clearly stated anywhere what limb waves and limb technology really were. It's all vague claims and wild theories, dreams that border more on the mystical than the scientific. What we do know is that limb stood for unlimited frequency. Radio waves, once souped up and modulated just right, supposedly enabled the control of matter in a way that modern science both back then and now could only dream of. After Dr. Turner's discovery, she and a few friends, scientists and PhDs all, toyed with limb in their garage labs for about 4 years. The local police and fire departments start making regular house calls, spurred on by increasingly disgruntled neighbors calling in about incidents that seem to grow larger and more disturbing as the years go on. After one too many reports, the federal government takes notice, and thus begins their severe interest in limb technology. The next part happens quickly. In 1955, the United States government
Seizes not only the physical area where Dr. Turner and her scientists live, but the entire concept of limb technology. The area is at first evacuated under the pretense of safety, but quickly commandeered by the government.
they establish a brand new department called ARDA, Advanced Resonance Development Authority, which was to be headed by Dr. Turner herself. Over the next 15 years, the government expands the zone's borders. They clear out civilians as they go and erect massive 500-meter walls to keep out an increasingly curious public. The zone started in the northernmost tip of the peninsula, then expanded outward twice. Once in 1961, again in 1967, to the outer perimeter we see now.
All this caused by radio wave manipulations. I don't buy it. But I've got no way of squeezing Oppie for the truth out here. Besides, I'll probably have a CIA spook just apparate behind me the moment I asked.
After the multi-stage evacuation of the Olympic Peninsula's 100,000-strong population, the records get sketchy.
Once the region is swept clean of civilian eyes, the flow of information trickles to an eventual stop. ARDA has always maintained that the evacuation was done in the name of national security. That there was simply nothing more patriotic than sacrificing your homes, with the communists plotting our demise across the Atlantic. Certainly not because there was any danger from the strange experiments happening inside, or situations most unnatural to witness. ARDA kept a wide berth, displacing citizens far ahead of the front line, so first-hand accounts of things going awry were rare. But rumors spread fast, and everyone had some story about a distant relative whose pet changed in inexplicable ways, or a friend of a friend who followed strange lights into the woods and never returned. Once the civilians cleared out, the ARDA employees moved in. Scientists, officials, support staff,
And their families made the Olympic exclusion zone home, reaching anywhere from 300 to 1,000 in total at its peak. What any of them were doing in the zone was kept hush-hush, but the population
just outside the walls found secrecy irresistible. Every shipment of raw material, out-of-season weather pattern, and inexplicable light or sound became the talk of the town for the first decade of the zone's existence.
I did it. I crawled inside. I've seen where they lead, where they go. It makes so much sense now. I found it between junctions 5A and 6C. Sometimes you pass right through like normal. Other times you come back where you started, but in the opposite direction. But you never turn around. And there are no lips that could have led you there. And when that happens, sometimes you get a glimpse. A red light in the distance. It's waiting, looking for something it lost a long time ago. Reaching out. I'm certain that's the answer to it all. And I'm staying right in here until I find out what it is.
Did they climb into the pneumotubes? Christ, they could be dog food by now.
hard facts end. Listeners, I tried. I really did. I started my investigation in the usual fashion, digging up every piece of public record I could get. The paperwork is maddeningly typical up until 1955. Census records, soil samples, weather reports, hand-drawn survey maps, the beginnings of satellite photos, all readily available for anyone with the patience to walk themselves into a county office. Those materials don't tell me much,
And I quickly am forced to turn to more dubious sources. Before the downing of multiple passenger planes and the subsequent establishment of a no-fly zone in 1962, crude aerial photos are taken and circulated. This is where things get interesting. I find fuzzy shots of what appears to be entire mountains
relocating overnight, buildings disappearing and reappearing at random, and lakes filled with water or light, depending on the time of day. The resolution is dubious, making them inkblot tests in their own right. They are the stuff of dreams among amateur investigators and conspiracy theorists alike. The most outlandish, improbable, and extremely unverifiable stories came from breachers, people rumored to have jumped, tunneled, hot air ballooned their way through the walls.
If they're to be believed, there is much to be uncovered. But more on that later. Lynn technology is not paraded around in the press for long. As the government withdraws acknowledgement that it ever existed, the public's interest similarly begins to wane. Last verifiable activity is an exodus of ARDA employees from the zone, beginning in 1981 and followed swiftly by a full decommissioning of the zone in 1987. After which, those 3,600 square miles are sealed away and left behind with no explanation. A tomb, minutes away from the populous, perfectly normal city of Seattle, with decades of history and secrets locked inside. And that is where I'm left to fill in the enormous, ill-defined gaps.
So she is out here somewhere. There's no way she didn't come hunting with a cliffhanger like that.
Give us the rundown, Francis.
What, me?
The electrical grid is your department.
You know the plan as well as I do.
So you'd rather trust me than have to speak up for yourself?
Heh, she got you good,
Guess you're on your
Francis.
own, driver.
Good luck. Okay, fine. The regular anchors aren't enough to overcharge the arc device to the level we need. But there's an old anomaly barricade we can piggyback onto. It's archaic technology, an early attempt to stop anomalies from drifting out into the wider Olympic Peninsula. It worked for some time,
Until it didn't.
but long enough to get the old wall built.
The barricade's in bad shape, but what's a little rampant voltage leakage? Not like the ghosts and goblins of the deep zone will mind. And if they do, more the better for Francis. Huh?
Appreciate the olive branch, Abby, but boy, do you have a lot to learn about the paranormal. I'd be happy to give you a primer after all this is over.
I want to swap notes once all this is over. I think you'd love my library.
The car will induce a current along the barricade, in the same way you did it crossing the old wall. Every connection point needs to be induced within a limited time. Electrify the entire barricade, and we'll have all the power we need.
You heard him. Floor it, driver.
You're near the barricade's operating station. Can you get in there and look around? We need something that'll give us the lay of the land. Perfect. I'm uploading the barricade map to your ARC device. By my calculations, if you electrify all 8 posts, you'll have all the power you need. Oppie, does that seem right?
Does it seem right to you?
I think so. Yeah, I ran the numbers a few times, and
Then get to it, driver.
Another rally stage, with no risk of death by explosion this time. Well, I'll take some physical catharsis right about now. Aux cable in, let's rock. And across the line. Oh, Jesus!
Ready to go. It'll hold that charge for as long as we need it. Nice work out there. The whale could be a lot. Take your time and gear up.
No telling what that remnant's going to unleash.
Alright, one last round of upgrades.
Hey, driver. I sent you something, if you don't mind taking a look. Tobias's favorite cryptid of them all. If it's not too much to ask, if you could put it on your dashboard, so Tobias can come along for the ride, for wherever you're going. But don't feel obligated by any means.
I would be honoured. Now, ain't you a cute little chunkster? One last round of upgrades. Time to use some real mad science here to create an all-electric car. Even bigger batteries in the back, a pair of solar panels to make sure we get there all the way, and of course, a paint scheme to do Tobias proud. Once more onto the roads, dear friends. Once more. Here we are. Oh, my hands are shaking.
This is really it, huh? The end of the road. Soon we'll finally see for ourselves what caused the mass hallucination and what Tobias and Alan died for.
And whether it was all worth it.
12 gods.
Francis,
Yeah?
thank you for trusting me when you had every reason not to. Getting to this point together with you, It makes me feel like my old self again.
It's been an honor to watch you work, Dr. Turner. These gamma readings, are they real? I can't even begin to guess what could be outputting this much radiation.
Some sort of energy reservoir, a massive fission reaction, or
a portal.
Atlantis.
If this thing really leads us to Atlantis, I'm turning in my PhD.
God, if only Tobias were here to see it.
I would have liked to hear his take on all this. For once. All right, Driver. You're almost to the threshold. Remember, Francis and I have got your back. Once you get that car to the well, we'll keep the gamma ray burst under control.
It's
opening. Godspeed, Driver.
Here we go! Where am I? Where's the car?
Did it work? What's the energy output? Damn it, Alan, I'm fine. Light nearly blinded me. Can you read it?
Yes. Let me see. 500 kilojoules? Happy, what is this?
The future. I call it limb waves.
Have I just fallen out the bottom of the world?
Coffee delivery.
Alan, gosh. Is it that time already?
So, about leaving Earth. I was thinking, how about my Christmas?
Yes, maybe. I just need to solve this instability issue. I loathe to think about leaving the Olympic Peninsula like this.
I just always wanted to.
I know. I'm sorry.
And I love you for it. Just wondering if you'll really be able to walk away from all this. It's okay if you can't.
You abandoned the world to work here beside me. Fair is fair.
Nanotech is a world-changing discovery. Your world-changing discovery. Fairness isn't even a consideration.
We agreed to have children, and I'm not having them in this household.
Good, because I'd love to have 8.
Then I hope you're ready to carry at least half of those yourself.
I love you.
I love you.
So am I in the past then? Or has a reality just officially given up?
Tobias, the movers are here. Wait, why aren't you packed?
I ain't going.
The evacuation orders...
Evacuation orders can go to hell. We leave, and we never see the inside of these walls again. All the things we've been investigating. The ripple, the echoes from the swamp, they'll all fade away. I'm gonna stay and chase down these stories. Wherever they take me.
Tobias,
Stay here. With me.
No, not the past. The pivotal moments. The point where the choices got made.
you here to vote?
I'm here to deliver the committee's decision. You have been found guilty of doctoring experimental data. This action is in clear violation of artist scientific integrity. Judgment has been rendered. You may stay and work, but your clearance will be lowered to level 3.
So I'm to be a glorified flash cleaner.
Take it as a win. You could have been court-martialed instead.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have liked that much better.
What I like has no bearing on this decision. See you on Monday, Dr. Cook.
Driver.
Oh, you're still there. Thank fuck.
Driver, you passed through some sort of opening. We managed to hold it steady, but the energy expulsion is growing. We don't have much longer.
If you can hear this, you need to get back now.
Hey, look! The gang's back together!
Tobias?
I never told you how grateful I was that you stayed behind in the zone. With me. These years, best of my life. Foraging for mushrooms, slogging through swamplands, combing through hours and hours of terrible field recordings. Not a single moment wasted. Thank you. For everything.
It was all you. You made me feel capable. That anything was possible. That I wasn't some second-rate scientist. All my happiness was thanks to you. And I'm afraid of how I'll survive without you.
I'm not. You got this. You always have. Hey, Oppie. Alan sends his regards. And he wants to know why you haven't taken his advice yet.
What advice?
Driver, is that a gunbaroo on your dash? Oh, you damn. Bye. Until next time.
Goodbye, big man.
Tobias? Tobias!
Driver, if you could hear this, we can't keep the well stable for much longer. Wherever you are, come back.
Run as fast as I can. Can't exactly make those jumps, so the only way out is down. There you are, you beautiful contraption. Straight shot to victory. Let's go! It's the cubes! You'll never take me alive!
You made it back, driver. All in one piece.
I did.
And no
I'm
sign of
alive.
Remnant's energy signature anywhere in that car. You're free.
But the car's maintained its link to you. Fascinating. We'll never know how far the Remnant's obsessions wormed into your head, but you should be safe from it getting any worse. In theory.
Oppie, I'm sorry. You didn't get to talk to Alan again.
We managed to pull off the near impossible. And the first thing you do is apologize?
Sorry.
Don't worry, it was Tobias's fault. He hogged the frequency all for himself yet again.
You heard him too.
I did. That means I didn't imagine that last conversation with Alan. And you know what else?
What?
That your theory was right. And Tobias called it. All that bluster, and he ended up showing us scientists a thing or two. Those moments we heard, they were all from the past. Being inside that well somehow allowed the Remnant to access those imprints and replay them. But Tobias's voice wasn't from the past, it was from somewhere else entirely.
But where? And how?
No clue. Do me a favor. Once you figure it out, don't bother telling me. I'm leaving the zone.
I'm sorry, what?
Alan came to tell me goodbye, and that I was forgiven 37 years ago. I didn't listen. So now, finally, I'm going to take his advice. I should have left the zone a long time ago.
But if we solve this, maybe there's a way to speak to him again.
I heard what I needed to hear. It only took me 37 years to listen. Anyway, all that sounds like a young scientist game. It's not for me anymore. Francis, you decide what to do from here. You can carry the torch and continue the research, or get out of this cursed place and find your own way. It's your decision. And driver, you're free now. You can do what you want from here. But if you'll allow an old woman one last hope, stay here with Francis. There's so many more stories for the Zone to tell. And the both of you are young enough to listen. My ears are bad. And I refuse to hear them. I've removed all access restrictions to my systems, Francis. The helm is yours.
Wait, I don't know if I can do this alone.
You're not alone. You've got clear eyes, ears open to the impossible, and the driver. Dr. Cook, driver. It's been a pleasure. This is Dr. Ophelia Turner. Signing off.
Oppie.
It's been real, Oppie.
Oppie.
Goodbye.
Really? Well, driver, if you don't mind sticking around with me, Oppie was right. There's still so much of the Zone that we still don't know about. But with your help, we can tell those stories. I'm no Oppie, but I'll do the best I can. You're no longer bound to the car, but it's stayed with you and will continue to protect you as you travel the Zone. Go on then. As long as you're willing to drive, I'm along for the ride.
Alright, Doc, where to first? Thank you, everybody, for indulging me in this little experiment. I was wondering how I'd write a script for a more story-driven game, and Pacific Drive felt like the perfect way to do it with a silent protagonist. This game is absolutely fantastic. I've always been very fond of roguelikes, and giving me a cracked-out old junker of a car to nurture up into a road warrior is a fantastic framing device. Story is a beauty too. I'm not too proud to admit that the old wall crossing scene took me a while to edit, mostly because I had to keep stopping and getting emotional every 5 minutes. Rip to a real one. Honestly, I might well just dive right back in once I've finished recording here so I can get all the upgrades, explore every junction and find every tape. I hope you've enjoyed this road trip as much as I have, and we'll be back to our more technical style of narration next time. Until then, thank you, good night, and much love.
how much I hate this hocus-pocus nonsense, Faustus. Now you want to tell me just what the hell is so important?
Sleeping Mother, sacred harbinger, awaken and reclaim what is yours. You who rise with the moon in darkness, who prepares the path for the midnight sun. Turn your merciless eyes upon us, and arise!
Nice show, Doc. Next time, call Zemo. Better yet, I'll just shoot you and save us all the trouble.